to the Minor Rex podcast. My name is Angelo, and joining me today are Christa, Sarah, Quinn, and Cameron. Our topic today is the upcoming Hugo Awards, science fiction and fantasy's most prestigious award ceremony, which is being held on August 11th this year. We will be discussing the various award categories and the nominees we either read, watched, or played from each one. But before we get too much into each nominee, though, Christa, could you tell us a little bit more about the Hugo Awards? And then can you also go over which category we'll be covering in this episode today?
Sure. So the Hugo Awards began in the 1950s, and as before mentioned, these are awards for science fiction and fantasy-based media. And these are voted on at the World Science Fiction Society at their convention every year, which has been dubbed Worldcon. And this year's voting is going to be taking place in Scotland. So why are science fiction and fantasy grouped together in the first place actually comes because they are both considered forms of speculative fiction, meaning that they explore hypotheticals about science, magic, space, and worlds that are different from our own, but still comparable. There are a few different categories that we'll be focusing on in this episode. Books and authors, pretty standard. There will also be the dramatic presentations categories. One is long form and typically refers to movies or longer length media. And one is short form, which is typically for TV series episodes or other shorter visual media, and we'll be discussing those together. There's also a category for games and semi-professional zines or semi-pro zines, which we'll be touching on later.
So I think it makes sense to start with the Hugo Award for Best Novel. I'm going to quickly read through the nominee list. The first nominee is The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. The Saint of Bright Doors by Vajra Chandra Sakara, Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh, Starter Villain by John Scalzi, Translation State by Anne Leckie, and finally Witch King by Martha Wells. So Sarah, I wanted to begin with you because from what I understand, of everyone here, it seems like you have read the most nominees for this category. I believe you said you read Amina al-Sarafi and Translation State. Could you describe those for us, and which one do you think will win?
It's really hard. I really like The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, and I also really love Translation State. They both are really deserving novels in their own right, and they're both very different novels, too. So it's really hard to pick based on, quality of writing because they're just so good. But I kind of feel like Amina al-Sarafi might be the winner because I feel like it's maybe more relatable across the board, whereas Translation State is a mystery set in space, and it may not be as, relatable as a pirate adventure is, but I don't know. I'm loving them both, honestly.
Could you give a quick synopsis of what Amina al-Sarafi is? Yeah.
I've got the summary. So Amina al-Sarafi should not be content. After a storied and scandalous career as one of the Indian Ocean's most notorious pirates, she's survived backstabbing rogues, vengeful merchant princes, several husbands, and one actual demon to retire peacefully with her family to a life of piety, motherhood, and absolutely nothing that hints at the supernatural. But when she's tracked down by the obscenely wealthy mother of a former crewman, she's offered a job no bandit could refuse: retrieve her comrade's kidnapped daughter from her kingly son. The chance to have one last adventure with her crew, do right by an old friend, and win a fortune that will secure her family's future forever, it seems like such an obvious choice that it must be God's will. Yet the deeper Amina dives, the more it becomes alarmingly clear that there's more to this job and the girl's disappearance than she was led to believe. For there's always risk in wanting to become a legend, to seize one last chance at glory, to savor just a little bit more power, and the price might very well be your soul.
So this sounds closer to fantasy than sci-fi.
Oh, definitely. It's not sci-fi for sure.
Yeah. I've seen the cover. The cover looks super sick.
It's so pretty. Yeah. It's a real fat book.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely caught my eye a couple times, too. It's definitely on my list to read eventually.
The audiobook is very good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And it's really cool because it's set in like a country region that like I'm not really familiar with.
Does it utilize like Indian like mythology or just like
Kinda, I believe it's Muslim actually.
Oh, okay.
If not partially. They call white Christians Franks, and they do build up to it in like the prologue. Is it the prologue? Whatever the first introductory little bit was talking about how like this is who we refer to in this and blah 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 in this region. So it's a real like diverse piece of fantasy that we're not used to having this kind of story set in this region without it being like something like Aladdin or something.
But it is like Earth that it's.
Oh, it's Earth.
Yeah.
It's like magical realism. Like it's mostly real life, but then they drop in there that like, oh, these two kids hired this old woman to sail them out into this little lagoon area to like, I don't know, maybe catch a fish or something. And it turns out they're summoning a demon, and she's like, go home, children.
In the synopsis, like it even mentions, like demons and, stuff like that. So there's, even just from the synopsis, there's like fantasy elements.
Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely sounds really interesting.
It kind of reads like a D&D pirate crew, kind of. Her team is like each a specific person on the ship. I don't think it's her second in command, but it's one of two people that were her closest people, is like this crazy poison-making lady. Like, she's apparently, like, really beautiful, but she's absolutely got, like, absolutely wild hair and, like, would rather poison you than take a chance at, like, being wrong. So, like, you've got that, and then you've also got this Indian man who he's not the navigator, but he's also basically her right-hand man. One of the first chapters in the book is them ending up saving him from getting beheaded along with the crew. Like,
is he the first mate?
Yeah, I think it might be first mate. That would make sense. And if it weren't for her accepting this job, he probably would have been dead because it's just like a whole net of lies and mystery and piracy.
So you choose that over Translation State, you think? As the winner of the few you read, yeah.
I'm not done with Amina yet. I'm halfway through, and I did finish Translation State, and I loved Translation State too. I thought it was really cool because it had different pronouns. So it had like Z, Zim, Z, Zir, in addition to they, them, she, her, he, him, and all that stuff. There was a very interesting alien race that they introduced but never quite like showed us anything about. They were called the Preska, and instead we ended up dealing with what were called the Preska translators, which are humans genetically modified in order to be able to, like, they're kind of like vessels for the Preska. Like, they're still their own separate people, but the Preska translate with humanity through these people who may or may not be like half Preska. Like, you really don't know. It's like a very humanoid sci-fi story where like there is an alien, but the main people that make up the galactic community are very much different sects of humanity, and also like this whole AI faction that kind of do like what the Borg do and like take over bodies. So like until they
hive mind.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hive mind, kind of like, okay, we've gotten like human volunteers to sacrifice their bodies so we can have a vessel. Yay! So like you're getting like little bits and pieces of like this universe, but the focus is on the main mystery where there's a missing Preska translator, and the task was supposed to be impossible, but it turns out one of the main characters, N.A., they get hired as like a diplomat to try and solve this mystery, and they end up finding the descendant of the person that they were missing, and it's completely just like a whole web of intrigue and mystery, and who is so-and-so, and will they like bond, because it's like a thing that like the Preska translators, they can't exist on their own. Once they become of age, they need to like find someone to like melt into. It's really...
Man, I love describing sci-fi and fantasy books to people. It's my favorite thing because you can see them as you're saying it, lose track of what you're talking about.
You can like watch people's brains buffer.
You go, but it's kind of this thing, but it's also like another thing, and it depends on the situation, and then they just go,
As they say in the book, it's not sex.
Yeah.
And it's not like gem fusion either from Steven Universe, but it's definitely like...
It's its own thing.
It's its own thing. And I thought that was so clever and it was so interesting. And like the voice actor for the audiobook also did a fantastic job. And there was a lot of like African accents added, which you don't normally like really experience if it's not like written by a person of color. So I thought it was very like refreshing and like well developed too. So it's honestly, it's anyone's game. It could be either of them. That's my bet.
Sci-fi and fantasy audiobooks oftentimes I think are the best audiobooks because they get a lot of like radio theater type production, sound effects and accents and voices and whatnot. Every audiobook that I've listened to that I'm like, that was a really good audiobook from a production standpoint has been either a fantasy or sci-fi book because you kind of need that, I think, extra layer of production to illustrate what's going on a little better. They take full advantage of that. The Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I'll talk about at the end, also does a really good job of doing that, and it helps to illustrate the world a lot better.
You also get to learn how to pronounce like all of the words and names. You're
like in translation
this is what it was meant to be.
Oh my gosh, there's so many names that like I was like, oh yeah, this is so and so while I was listening, and then I look at it via the summary, I'm like, oh god, I would have never thought it was that.
So I was going to ask, did anyone here read Saint of Bright Doors or Witch King?
I did. I read Saint of Bright Doors when it first came out, and I have been recommending it to people since it first came out. It is bright yellow, very eye-catching, incredibly colorful. I don't know how I feel about it as an award nominee.
Yeah.
I personally didn't feel a crazy amount of connection with it. It was very enjoyable, and I think there's definitely something to say for the author's skill about world building and weaving lore in with the actual plot. But I did feel as if it were a little bit slow moving and as if I couldn't really distinguish what the main plot line was or if there were meant to be multiple at the same level of importance.
What's it about, kind of?
Sure, I can pull up an accurate description for you. But for those of you who are Avatar: The Last Airbender fans, it's very much giving like Zuko turning against his family vibes, rebelling against the family, going against your destiny, and then kind of finding your new destiny.
Wait, is this the one that's the retelling of one of the Arabian Nights stories?
I don't believe so, but this is the description that I'm bringing to you from Goodreads. Thank you, Goodreads. The Saint of Bright Doors sets the high drama of divine revolutionaries and transcendent cults against the mundane struggles of modern life, resulting in a novel that is revelatory and resonant. Fetter, the main character, was raised to kill, honed as a knife to cut down his sainted father. This gave him plenty to talk about in therapy. He walked among invisible devils and anti-gods that mock the mortal form. He learned a lethal catechism, lost his shadow, and gained a habit for secrecy. After a blood-soaked childhood, Fetter escaped his rural hometown for the big city and fell into a broader world where divine destinies are a dime a dozen. Everything in Luriat is more than it seems. Group therapy is recruitment for a revolutionary cadre. Junk email hints at the arrival of a god. Every door is laden with potential, and once closed may never open again. The city is scattered with bright doors, looming portals through which a cold wind blows. In this unknowable metropolis, Fetter will discover what kind of man he is, and his discovery will rewrite the world. So there's a lot happening in this book.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the D&D Planescape setting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
Sigil.
Yeah, that's Planescape.
Yeah, but I do feel it does say, there's a lot happening with the revolutionaries and transcendent cults versus the mundane struggles of modern life. And I think those are plot lines that are very much raised to the same level of importance. And there's kind of some confusion, in my opinion, of like where Feder is traveling and how he's getting there. And like they talk a little bit about legal systems and paperwork and like how he acts as a translator for people who have just come into the city, because he's very adept with languages. So he's helping a lot of people get their paperwork and get their work done. So he's like very welcomed there. And they touch on how those systems work and how like the border system is. And I just kind of found it to be a little bit confusing.
It sounds relevant and like also pretty accurately relevantly confusing.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the overall storyline. I also think it's worth noting I kind of speed read, so it is possible that I just like missed a little linking point. So, you know, it could just be a me thing or something that I missed.
But you would recommend it still?
Yeah.
Okay.
The author is very skilled in how he is like linking these concepts together and how he's explaining the lore of Feder's destiny in the context of modern life and like how the cult situations are affecting regular daily life. So I think the author is very much skilled, but I think it can be a little bit difficult to like actually connect to it unless you have like a very intense relationship with your family. So while it's very good and I would recommend it, I'm not sure if I see it actually winning.
Okay, yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah and Christa. I wanted to continue onwards to some of the other categories now. I figured that we just combine the 3 short-form books into one discussion. These are the Hugo Award for novella, novelette, and short story. Did anyone read any of the nominees for these categories?
I just have commentary on the author Nhi Va, who is featured with nominations in novella and novelette. So Nhi Va has won Hugo Awards before, and she has a series of novellas that are interesting for a variety of reasons, one of which being you can read them in any order and they should still make coherent sense. So I believe there are 3 or 4 installations in that set so far, and it looks like there are a couple more that should be on their way. Outside of writing fantasy, she also writes other general fiction. Her debut novel, it is a queer fantasy adaptation of The Great Gatsby. And as a Vietnamese author, she incorporates parts of her identity into all of her work, as I am seeing. And I think something else about her is she only began publishing her novels in 2021, but she has been publishing short stories like since 2007, but she's only kind of gaining acclaim now. What stands out to me about her is she like just turned 42, and many authors that we're familiar with in science fiction and fantasy do tend to be middle-aged or a little bit on the older side and have been writing like for decades. She's also been writing for decades, but I do love seeing like a middle age or otherwise later in life success story, just because I do feel like we see a lot of, oh, this author is like 25 and came out with their novel last year and is getting, you know, this PR package and a film is being made.
And they're a genius.
Yeah, and it's like that is all great, but I do love seeing additional success stories.
Life doesn't die at 30.
Yeah.
Right, like there's no time limit. She's a queer author, Vietnamese author, and this is all very present in her work. So just like as a person, conceptually, very cool. Love that.
I dig it. I also took the time to read some of the nominees for the best novelettes. My favorite was the introduction to the 2181 Overture, 2nd edition by Gu Shi. It's translated by Emily Jin. And it's basically a story set through the lens of an academic text regarding cryosleep, which already, had my attention. I mean, it's not a topic in sci-fi that is unexplored, but it's definitely not explored in the way that it is in this text. So basically, the world created by and surrounding cryosleep up to the year 2088 is documented in this academic text. And the protagonist wakes up from cryosleep to a world almost completely decimated by the eruption of the massive Yellowstone volcano. And prior to cryosleep, a passenger being processed for cryosleep alongside them shares with them an ebook, Introduction to the 2081 Overture, which is a play on the 1812 Overture. I believe that's a musical composition.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's just, is it kind of bouncy, marchy? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's just cannons that are shot. So assuming that they would get the chance to read it and talk about it with the passenger when they eventually both awoke, the protagonist doesn't open up the file until they are forcefully awoken from the eruption. And it turns out they're like one of the only survivors left from the eruption, and the protagonist reads the academic text sharing the knowledge that basically builds up to the world history that I'm assuming maybe they have missed while they were asleep, but it's also like a hint that, you know, the passenger that gave them the text was someone related to the academic text and the study of the way it affected society and like how they commercialized it and like said like, oh, why, you know, put a hold on, like, you know how all those advertisements are like, yeah, blah, 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 do this thing and you'll be successful. So now it's like, yeah, go to cryosleep and wake up in a whole new world. Yay! And it's just really interesting take on what a world that commercialized cryosleep to be something beyond medical care or travel would look like. And then also like think about how like, okay, if these people hadn't done this, there would be no one alive on Earth because there was a giant volcanic eruption and the only survivors were like portions of 2 continents in these like basically cryosleep villages underground. So I thought it was really fascinating. Goodreads did not think so, but I disagree. So you just said like a textbook about cryosleep. Is that how you would describe it?
It's like an academic text. Like someone said, oh, study the effects and the news and the people related to the drama surrounding cryosleep up in the last 80 years, and it's in a paper.
It's giving Fallout 4.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Fallout TV show. Yeah,
Definitely.
Cryosleep isn't that. But as soon as you said like academic paper on cryosleep, I wrote down to read this.
Oh yeah. It's very short, and it was really enjoyable and fascinating. It's better win.
Anyone else, or do we want to go over some of the different categories, like about movies and video games?
Yes, because I would like to say the Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode Subspace Rhapsody deserves Best Dramatic Presentation short form.
Yeah, I feel like the short form dramatic presentation nominees are all like exactly what you would expect.
It's
because
true.
They're all like Doctor Who, Star Trek, Loki, The Last of Us. But then when you look at the long form, the first nominee on the list, Barbie. And Barbie is speculative fiction about what would happen if, like,
I was literally
Barbie
sitting here looking at it, and I was like, why is Barbie included in this list? And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? It also fits because you think about the fact that she's from a completely different like world dimension, essentially. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? Maybe it does deserve to be on this list, actually.
There's a shocking amount of lore in the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
That gets explained really well in the scene. You know, it's not, they don't really have to backtrack to explain, like, this is the Barbie world and this is the human world. And, like, it's kind of like a realm of our own collective consciousness, but it's its own thing, and they've got autonomy, but they are whatever related to their counterparts in the real world, which a lot of sci-fi books would take an exhaustive amount of time to explain that concept.
What's the other movies that are listed?
So I have a couple that I highlighted on my list here to touch on. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. The screenplay and directing is done by John Francis Daley, and if anyone is a fan of the crime series Bones, it's Dr. Sweets.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know, that made me very happy to see. I can support this movie. My cat liked it, for what that's worth. She was incredibly engaged
Taylor
watching
approved.
it. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine talk to me about it, and he said that he was worried about it being kind of quippy and coming off, for better or for worse, kind of like a Marvel movie. And according to him, he was like, it didn't feel like that. It felt like a bunch of people playing D&D together. You know, so for what that's worth, take it from my friend who also plays D&D, that he liked it.
I think the casting in Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves also was, like, stellar. They had quite a few, like, famous names.
Isn't it Chris Pine in there?
Yeah.
Another Star Trek person.
Yeah, and then the actor who was in the first season of Bridgerton. I can't remember. I know he was in
his
it.
Name. He was great in it.
Yeah, but it also features the actress Daisy Head. She was in the Shadow and Bone Netflix adaptation and also in the production of Ophelia, which is a retelling of Hamlet from Ophelia's perspective.
Very cool.
And I'm very happy seeing her involved in more productions and kind of gaining traction, just because it's very fun to, like, have seen her in Ophelia and kind of, like, watch her grow. So I'm very sentimental about that. Other notable titles: Nimona.
Oh, I'm so happy it's on there.
Yeah, I saw that. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I loved the graphic novel, so it was really cool seeing it, like, actually visualized.
Yeah.
And they changed some stuff too.
The animation style is good.
Well, and it's nice seeing it, like, kind of finally come to exist after, you know, like, years and years of it kind of being curtailed and, you know, pushed to the side, and then Blue Sky closed. Yeah. And they're just like, what is going to happen with this movie? Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, even if it was kind of like a meh movie, just because of how much it had to go through in order to become a thing that we can watch, deserves a bit of credit for that.
Also on the list are Poor Things and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I feel like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to do quite well.
I can see that. On animation alone.
Yeah, like, incredibly famous, like, right off the bat. Very recognizable. Even
Incredible animation.
Yeah.
Oh, is it just the screenplay?
It's just the screenplay.
Dang.
They're not judging visuals.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is
they're
interesting.
just judging it off of the writing of it, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, but I think because it's famous, like, even with people who aren't really into, like, the science fiction and fantasy theme, and also just because of Spider-Man, like, as this nostalgic figure for so many people, I think there's definitely, like, pretty good basis for people to be like, you know, I'm, like, on the edge between this and this, but I feel really sentimental about Spider-Man.
I would say my big thing with Across the Spider-Verse is that obviously because there's the third movie coming out, to me, it feels unfinished.
Oh,
they left it on such a big cliffhanger. I remember seeing it with my friends and looking at the time and being like, there's a lot of ends that they have not wrapped up, and there's literally 10 minutes left of the movie. What's going on? Yeah. And I think in a way that serves almost as a detriment to it because it does not feel complete. It is not the complete story. Yeah. Whereas the first one was fairly self-contained. And even when it comes to a series of movies, like, they don't introduce it as this is part one of this movie. They have it as technically two separate things. And I think that that works as a detriment.
Yeah, and I think especially in such an action-heavy screenplay, too, where it's like, oh, and then there's a fight scene between Spider-Gwen and the Vulture or whatever, and then it's just like, they're fighting. Quip, where'd you come from? Leonardo da Vinci times? Oh, and a bomb explodes, or whatever. And that's why I think something that's a little bit more, like, dialogue heavy. I'm not sure how Hugo votes.
I'm not sure.
But if it's, the typical snobbery of voting bodies for artistic works, I think Poor Things has a big chance of winning that, just because it is an adaptation of a book already, which I know Nimona has, and obviously Spider-Man has, like, a history of publication, also visual components to those publications, so not as writing intensive, whereas Poor Things being adapted from a novel for screen, I think makes its dialogue already a little bit stronger and more in the like textual realm of
I'd buy that.
Yeah, of comprehension. And I just think it's a great movie. I loved the movie. I thought Emma Stone was great in it. I thought Willem Dafoe was great in it. And the visuals are also really good, but like that not being a part of it, I think that has... And I think the Barbie script is also really strong.
Mm-hmm. It's more of a comedy, though. So it's like, how do you even compare those two?
Well, I don't know what the Hugo voting body looks
I don't
like.
It's... From what I've seen, the voting body is just the members of the convention, like the World Science Convention for the year 2023 to 2024.
The convention goers are the ones who vote.
There was 1,720 valid nominating ballots that were received and counted from those members. So it's almost good in a way that it's like that, instead of having it be like, we're this group of like 10 people who, might kind of be film snobs, in that there's more people who are getting their voices kind of heard in regards to it, and it's probably people who are into sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention with the Poor Things, I feel like that's probably the most traditional science fiction choice.
Yeah, no, it's literally a take on the first science fiction story, Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed from it, but yeah, it has a lot of like OG science fiction tropes. It's like a person brought back to life. That's really the only like explicit sci-fi thing in it, is like the medical experiments that happen, but the technology is just kind of like...
It's kind of steampunky.
But not out of the realm of possibility for the time period being portrayed. And also, I found this interesting, because I could talk about this movie forever. The way that the set evolves throughout the movie is in line with her perception of the world as she matures.
That's interesting.
So at the end of the movie, it's like almost realistic. And at the beginning of the movie, it's it's black and white before she leaves the house. It's like Jenny in the black and white room, like she understands color but hasn't experienced it. Goes, color exists, but everything kind of looks like a play set and kind of looks, like not fully formed or not structurally sound. And then as she sees the world more, it gets, more realistic. I forget what point I was trying to make with that. But I thought that was a really cool part of that movie, and I think you should watch that movie if you haven't seen it.
Not with your parents?
Yeah, no.
Not with your parents, no. And not if you're under the age of 17, which is the age to see rated R.
My sister watched it with my dad. No. And she had heard a bunch of like elderly people being like, oh, Poor Things was nominated for an Oscar. We should watch it. And my sister is like, they don't know what the movie's about. They don't know what it includes.
Yeah, don't watch it with anyone that took care of you as a child. It is, an explicit movie. Yeah.
And there's also, violence to animals, or at least just suggested, at least. So maybe not watch it if that bothers you either.
It has a Victorian era
mindset.
If you want to know more about it, probably look at the Does the Dog Die page for it. If you want to get like very in-depth trigger warnings about it.
Another thing it has going for it, since the voting is in Scotland, the original book was written by a Scotsman.
Oh, that'll do it.
So if that influences the voting body.
I wanted to jump to, I think, best game or interactive work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to mention those.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here as well. Some of our notable titles include Baldur's Gate 3, Chants of Sennar, and The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Baldur's Gate 3, I feel like nobody is surprised by this nomination.
I think it'll easily win.
I was surprised if it wasn't there.
Tears of the Kingdom might give it a real fighting.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Tears of the Kingdom is so great, but yeah, I don't think
considering
so.
how much Baldur's Gate absolutely devastated every award it was nominated for, and the fact that it's known by so many people who aren't even fans of RPGs or D&D. I think that it will definitely, I will be surprised if it doesn't win.
Yeah. I've heard a lot online about how Baldur's Gate 3 was the game that motivated women who weren't really gamers or women who kind of leaned towards the cozy gaming side. I've heard a lot of women were actually, I'm going to try this one and learn more, experience. It's also just been an incredibly popular year for Dungeons and Dragons related media.
I think between that and the movie
and everything happening with Critical Role and
Critical
other
Role and other
Dimension
20.
actual play podcasts. Honestly, even the past couple years, because then you add in Stranger Things and everything. It's been a very
a decade,
big
I
period
feel
of time for D&D.
Yeah, it's been kind of a steady increase. I think definitely with the introduction, or not necessarily introduction, but the increase in popularity with Stranger Things and the live play podcasts and series.
It's becoming less of this is something that's only known by nerds.
Yeah.
And I say that as a second generation D&D player. So, but it's really been interesting to see too, especially looking at it from the side of the decline it had in the 80s and the 90s.
The satanic panic.
And then this resurgence that it's been getting recently, as well as other TTRPGs.
You can play as Jesus.
I do think on the topic of Dungeons and Dragons in general, in compared to The Legend of Zelda, I think Dungeons and Dragons has had a very steady increase. I feel at least on my side of social media, The Legend of Zelda, I hear a lot when things first come out, and then things kind of drop off until the next thing comes out. But with Baldur's Gate, I'm hearing so much constantly about oh, here's this new mod, here's this new DLC, here's this patch
Or maybe
fix.
the algorithm just got you.
Yeah, it could be
anything.
My
It could
friend
be an
and I
algorithm thing
just
as well.
recently started another playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 after probably 4 months of me not playing it at all, because I was oh, I'm getting really into D&D again and talking about it with people, and I want to play D&D, but I can't. So I was let's do the next best thing, which is play Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
I think it's two different game philosophies in the flexibility of your game, because Zelda on the surface doesn't have a whole lot of new mechanics aside from the abilities that you have that you're the power hand or whatever, I forget what it's called, ultra hand, power hand, ultra hand or whatever, and you're oh, okay, that's interesting, I can stick things together and they interact with each other, but the depth of that is crazy, and for a platform like the Switch to operate the way that it does is insane.
As somebody who's played both games, I did really like Tears of the Kingdom, but I also, once again, me saying, hey, maybe having all of this stuff that you can do with this one thing is kind of a detriment, because I feel I loved Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is my cozy game. I play it when I'm feeling sad and I just want to run around on a horse and listen to good music and potentially get chased by a guardian and die. But I did not get that sort of connection with Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know what it was, but it felt like there was something missing from it to me. I would say to me personally, that I never was able to finish it because it just feels... There was so much mystery and intrigue in Breath of the Wild with, the setting and everything that I feel was either explained in Tears of the Kingdom in a way that I was like, this was more interesting when I didn't know about it.
We'll get back to that point about mystery.
But also, it feels like, of course, you've got, the depths and you've got the sky, but it feels like the same game, just a little more expensive.
Yeah, and the way you approach problems is different to an extent, but
this is my take. My take on it, they should have had us be Zelda in the past. That's my take on it.
Oh, true. That's
my take on it.
They're coming out with a game that you play as Zelda that looks interesting.
I'm really interested in that. But, all of the cutscenes where they play when you're in the past and, watching all these events unfold, I'm watching it going, can I be in this? This seems way more interesting than what's going on.
Different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was the losing the arm and getting a ghost arm attached to you not traumatizing enough for you?
No, it wasn't. I want to be... Because, again, another thing, this is, again... thing.
His husband gets married off.
There was not enough danger. Not enough of a sense of danger in the actual overworld.
I don't know, those spooky ghost hands.
No, because you can just climb into a wall and they disappear.
I ran away every time.
I think that those hands should have been able to climb walls. They can't climb them, so you just climb a wall or a tree just above where they are and they'll disappear. No sense of danger.
They should have given us one of those hydras, but made of the spooky hands.
Well, that sounds actually
terrifying.
A gloom hand, Gleeok.
That would have been.
That would be
because there was nothing that gave me the sense of danger like the Guardians in the first one.
So for people
because they could snipe you from forever.
They could. Nothing compares to the first time one of them is running at you and you hear the music and the pointer, directly on you. I was on a horse at the time. My horse died. I also died.
No, horsey.
And I'm like, nothing in Tears of the Kingdom gave me that, oh my god, I'm going to die moment.
So for people who maybe don't want that giant, I'm going to die moment all the time, I could recommend Chants of Sennaar, which is one of our other nominees here. So Chants of Sennaar is based on the story of the Tower of Babel, people working together to build a tower, and then language gets scrambled, and suddenly there is conflict, and the warriors are blocking all the devotees away from the tower, and then there are people who are inside the tower and under the tower, and then you go under and out and up again, and there's more people who can help you decipher all the language.
It's just for a person who's like a nerd with language and especially translation and stuff, it's a really excellent game. I also like this game a lot. And I think that, it's not super, super long, so you're not going to devote 30,000 hours to it, like you might with Baldur's Gate or Tears of the Kingdom. It's a really good, just I need a game to play.
Christa, I heard you wanted to talk about the semi-prozine category.
Yes, I will do that very briefly. Semi-prozine is short for semi-professional magazine or any, not necessarily unprofessional, any pre-professional periodical release. So these are going to be for text works primarily. Occasionally, I believe there is some art and some auditory content there. But if anybody is looking for a shorter form science fiction and fantasy read or wants to start getting into any of those genres, I really recommend checking out any of the semi-prozines that were nominated, because that's going to give you easier access at your fingertips to a pretty wide variety of work.
And then one thing I wanted to mention about zines, actually, is that we are getting a zine portion to the library.
Yes, we are.
Quinn, you want to talk about that? 'Cause you're on the committee.
Yes. I'm on the zine committee. We're looking at end of November, December, and we're trying to host a collection of zines, mostly from local creators. We've been in talks with the Chicago Zine Society. I can't remember what the signifier is, but it's a group of Chicago zine makers, as well as Quimby's Bookstore, which they sell zines, and so we're gonna have a collection of zines, and we're also looking at making a library zine that we're going to publish, and hopefully next year open up submissions to the public. But we're still in the process of defining the guidelines and making sure we have our editing process down and whatnot. But it's very exciting. Zines are very cool. It's also the birthplace of modern science fiction as we know it.
We will have an entire episode of the podcast later this year, or whenever we have the zine collection, where we will discuss zines more in depth. But to conclude this episode of the podcast, I wanted to just go around and see if anyone had just one science fiction book recommendation off the top of their head they would like to quickly discuss. So if you wanted to go in a circle, Cam, if you
I
wanted to
do.
go.
For those of you who read the newsletter, you might be a little familiar with this. My recommendation is In the Watchful City, which is by S. Xiaoyu Liu. I probably mispronounced that. It is a very short fiction, like a novella almost, that is very kind of heavily, in my opinion, inspired by the Arabian Nights. It's this person comes to this city, meets this security person essentially who can control and watch all of the people that live within this city and shows them things that hold stories from people who have gifted these items to them to kind of give this person a glimpse into what the world is like, what life is like, and kind of trying to get them to become more human rather than, kind of robotic and, stuff like that. I'm really bad at summarizing things. Please look up a summary for it. I read it very recently, and the last item, the story that goes with the last item, literally changed my life. It was excellent.
What is this again? This is
In the Watchful City.
I'm gonna have to read that.
And then Sarah, if you want to go.
Yeah. My favorite quadrilogy of all time is probably the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers. Each book is standalone, but it's set within the same universe, and it tends to have connecting characters. So characters that were maybe mentioned in the first book are explored more in the second book. And maybe the characters in the first or third book were mentioned briefly because it was just mentioned in the first book, but whatever. Anyway, so it's kind of like a Star Trek Mass Effect-esque universe, and it's very emotional relationship based. So the characters and their relationships with each other are the main driving factor of each of the stories. I used to say that Pride and Prejudice was my favorite book because I've reread it a bunch of times, and it takes the time to build up the universe before presenting you with the drama. But I would say that the Wayfarer series is either completely tied or probably I don't know if it beats out Pride and Prejudice, but it's in the same way that Pride and Prejudice develops your attachment to the characters. Wayfarers does that an even shorter amount of time. It's it feels like you're watching a sci-fi TV show, honestly. And it's honestly kind of devastating that we don't have more than 4 books and that they're all just kind of self-contained. But at the same time, it makes me want to reread them over and over again. So I definitely would recommend it.
And these are
to
newer?
Everyone. I don't know how new they are. I'm assuming they're within the last 10, 20 years.
Oh, okay, that's newer to me.
Yeah. I know our former coworker Lydia recommended them to me ages ago, and I eventually got to reading them last year, and it was they're the love of my life now.
Quinn, if you want to go.
Yeah. The book that I'm going to recommend that is also in the newsletter is called Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I've held off talking about this book or recommending it to patrons at the library because it is an indie published book. Originally was published via like Amazon's Kindle publishing and on I think it's called Royal Road, which is like a specifically like sci-fi fanfic and self-publishing blog kind of thing. And I think it's interesting because it is a book that is on its surface fantasy and the mechanics like work how fantasy like RPGs work in video games, but the underneath to that is it's all alien technology, and it's about a guy that his girlfriend has just broken up with him. She's away on a trip. He's taking care of her show cat. The cat escapes through a window, and the cat's name is Princess Donut, and his name is Carl. So he follows the cat. They're in Seattle. It's the middle of winter. He doesn't have time to put on pants, so he's out there in his boxers, just a coat. He's wearing sandals or slippers, and then an alien corporation repossesses all of the inorganic material on the surface of the Earth, flattens it, killing anybody that was inside. Everybody that was outside stays alive, and then they repurpose it into a death game TV series called Dungeon Crawler World. And so he's either going to stay on the surface and probably die, or he's going to go into the dungeon, and it's 18 floors of dungeon that he has to make it through. And there's a whole leveling system that acts just like an RPG, so he'll do something or get like a loot box or whatever. So for that reason, it's a very like, you know, it's a popcorny sci-fi series. There's some actual genuine like horror and gore that I was kind of taken aback by. You know, or surprised by, given like the tone of it, because it's very goofy. There's like a lot of like alien politics and like economies going on and interacting that are influencing the story from the outside. So that's kind of like an underlying subplot as him and Princess Donut, who like learns how to talk and is like intelligent in like the first chapter. So I'm not spoiling anything. So she's like the second main character. Really good. Bringing it back to the roots of self-publishing and fantasy, because I was looking at all of the books that were nominated for Best Book in here, or Best Novel, Best like traditional length novel. All of them are either HarperCollins or Tor published. Tor Publishing is the biggest sci-fi fantasy publisher in the world. Mm-hmm. So even I think the genre that it was pioneered by short form and indie publishing, zine making, like artists is, you know, a little bit gatekept by the publishing industry at large. And now that Dungeon Crawler Carl is finally getting a physical release and we can have it available at the library, it's being published by Ace, which is owned by Penguin Books. So it's like, but it won, or at least was nominated the last book. There's 6 of them out. The 7th one is being, you know, published chapter by chapter. Kind of like the olden days, won like the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Fantasy or Sci-Fi the year that it came out, either last year or the year before. So it's a very popular book, but it's not, you know, being recognized in a platform like this because of the way that it was originally published. And I think that's interesting and kind of speaks to the politics around publishing these days. But I digress. Christa.
So I would like to recommend Cassandra Claus' The Dead Take the A Train. It is a fantasy, magical realism set in modern day New York. Wall Street is run by monsters and demons. There are lesbians killing abusive ex-husbands. There's a lot happening there. Pretty good sense of humor while also sticking to like it's New York, and some of this may be magic, some of it may not. Sometimes it's just New York, you know?
Walking here.
Bada bing. Classic New York.
Yeah, like
you're licking angel. Somebody's licking an angel feather on the train across from you. Like, is it an angel feather? Is it a pigeon?
Normal New York.
Who knows? Yeah, like it could go either way. Cassandra Khaw is a queer Malaysian author, and to my knowledge, they are actually working on a novel relating to Critical Role, which should be upcoming. I don't have a date off the top of my head. I'm also our science fiction and fantasy selector here, so if anyone has recommendations or requests for purchase, you can hunt me down. Alternatively, you can hunt me down and send me everything that you would want in your ideal novel, and I will do my best to hunt that down for you if you want a personalized recommendation, just for entertainment value.
Please don't kill Christa.
No, please send me so many emails. It won't kill me. I love getting emails. I love getting requests. So
You just allowed them to hunt you.
that's okay.
World's most dangerous game. Hunt people for sport.
Oh no.
It's okay. I don't think my
fantasy
email
content.
is actually linked anywhere on our website, so it is a hunt.
There's a whole Doctor Who episode on this.
I'm living the science fiction.
What was the name of that book again?
Yeah, that was The Dead Take the A Train.
Oh, that's on my list.
I was gonna say I'm literally writing it down.
If I have to order more copies, let me know. I'm a big Cassandra Caw supporter. So if there is a Cassandra Caw book in the world, it will be on our shelf. And it will not be leaving our shelves until I am no longer selecting for science fiction.
Cassandra Caw.
We are approaching an hour, so I will go ahead and skip my recommendation. But I just want to thank you all again for joining us on this episode. Since we discussed a lot in this episode, I will compile all the media mentioned in a list for the podcast blog post. And also, as one final reminder, the Hugo Awards will be revealed on August 11th, so keep a watch out for those award announcements. All right, thank you.